Cheers.
Ready? Bottoms up. Hey everybody, welcome to Lynn's Test Kitchen with Bark and Brittle. Today I have a special guest with me. This here is my sister Kim.
Hi everyone.
She's going to be joining us and we're going to make two versions of the same cake. So I had a request for carrot crazy cake.
Crazy.
Yes. So what makes this crazy is that there's no eggs in here and there's no butter. And honestly, no butter isn't weird because it has oil. So if it had no oil, that would be crazy. But it doesn't have any eggs in it. So anyway, this was requested. It looks good. I love carrot cake. I hated carrot cake my whole life. She loved it and she converted me. So this is I think a pretty standard recipe for carrot cake. We have flour, sugar, baking soda, salt, some spices. I'll go through everything specifically as we're putting it in. Carrots, obviously, because that would be crazy if there were no carrots.
That'd be crazy.
Walnuts, raisins. The recipe did call for golden raisins, but I didn't have golden raisins, so we're using dark raisins. Vinegar, vanilla, and oil and water. So we're making two versions because my sister here doesn't eat gluten. So the recipe is for regular flour. So I figured we would try it both ways. So she's going to use a gluten-free flour. And we're using the King Arthur measure for measure. So this is supposed to work just like regular flour. We don't need to add xanthan gum or anything because it's already in here. So she's just going to put this together just as if it's a regular cake with regular flour, and we're going to do the same thing. It also called for an 8x8 pan, which I have one of, but the equivalent, I only had one, so the equivalent is a 9-inch round baking pan. So she's going to do hers round. I'm going to do mine in a square, and yeah, we're going to get started. Okay, so we both have a bowl of flour. Hers is gluten-free, I have regular, and it's 1.5 cups plus 3 tablespoons. Did you have the 3 tablespoons of flour? You didn't have the tablespoons of flour, did you?
Sorry. First time on the show.
Okay, excuse us. We need to add 3 tablespoons of flour. This is what happens when you have a guest and you trust them to measure out ingredients. So never trust your sisters, apparently. Lesson learned.
I was close.
I'm going to be right back.
My first mistake.
My first mistake.
Trusting
having you on.
Trusting me on your show.
Okay, so 1.5 cups flour plus 3 tablespoons, which we're all set with.
Oops.
Gluten-free, regular, and this is 1 cup of sugar, teaspoon of baking soda,
Thank you.
half a teaspoon of salt. I just have a sea salt here, but you can use a regular table salt, it doesn't matter. Half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cloves.
Yum.
Oh, I used to love cloves. I'm not a huge fan anymore, but I think this will be little enough that it'll still be good.
And I love cloves.
1/4 teaspoon of cloves and a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. A 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg.
You have enough nutmeg left?
I have just enough nutmeg. I use it to make a chai spice mix, my homemade chai spice
Which
mix.
is very yummy.
Okay, so once that's in, it says to blend. Well, we're going to do everything by hand. I mean, pull out an electric mixer if you want. I just didn't want to take out 2. Next, we're going to add the carrots and the walnuts. And this is 3/4 of a cup of grated carrot and 1/2 cup of walnuts. And then, oh, and the raisins. And if you don't like raisins, leave them out. That's not a big deal. I don't think you'd miss it. But I have made carrot cake with pineapple, chopped pineapple, and coconut. It was really good. And then we're going to add the wet ingredients, which it's a teaspoon of either white vinegar or apple cider. She pulled out the apple cider, so that's what we're using. Thank you, sister.
You're welcome, sister. Do you think this will give it a little bit of a stronger vinegary taste compared to?
I don't think in the end you're going to taste it. I think it's going to be more of a reaction for the baking soda.
Okay.
And then a teaspoon of vanilla, 5 tablespoons of canola oil. Now, we typically don't use canola oil. I'm not going to ask why on camera because she'll launch into a whole thing about the dangers of canola oil. But Kim's going to use an avocado oil and I'm going to use a canola oil. So we're going to pour the oil in. And then it's 1 cup of water.
Oh,
So I have 2 cups of water here.
I'll pour over.
So then I'm gonna try and aim for 1 cup. Water for you.
Thank you.
And now we're going to mix.
It bubbled up because of the vinegar and baking soda.
You're smart.
That was smart.
She thinks she's the smart sister.
We won't go there on the show.
This mix is pretty easy actually by hand. That came together super easy. Yours looks a little thicker
Yeah.
than mine. So we have no idea how the gluten-free one's going to come out. We just figured we would test it. We're going to get these into our pans. You have your pan handy?
I have my pan handy.
Yours is a lot thicker.
Yeah, sure is.
So you can see this gluten-free flour is more like, mine's pretty liquidy.
Are you sure you added enough flour to yours?
I'm sure that whoever measured the flour didn't measure it right. So this one's pretty thick. This one's very loose. So we'll see how they come out. What do we know? Because it's a test kitchen. So we're testing. So we're going to get these in the oven and then we will be back when they're cool. And if you're lucky, if we're lucky, we may have made a frosting too. A cream cheese frosting to try these with.
Yum.
But we'll be back when they're cool, show you what they look like, and do a taste test of both kinds. So we'll see you back in a while. All right, welcome back. We have both of our cakes out of the oven. This is the gluten-free one, and this is the regular one. Now, this one definitely looks a little bit gummier. Now, it felt done when I took it out of the oven. The toothpick came out clean, but now it definitely looks a little bit underdone. So we'll see. It may be that a gluten-free one just needs to be cooked a little bit longer. So when we cut it open, we'll see.
And you just kept
This
putting
one-
your fingers on my cake.
What? don't touch my cake. You have a gluten issue. Don't touch my cake. She just wiped the gluten off on me. All right, anyway, I think my cake definitely like springs back more like it should. I did whip up a quick cream cheese frosting,
Yum.
and I'll link to a description of that in the notes. So I did a separate video on it, so I'll link to it in the notes. So we're just going to quickly frost our own individual cakes. When I say individual, this is my cake. And she can do what she wants. This is Kim's cake. So maybe other people will try it. We don't know. So anyway, would you like to frost your cake?
I would, thank you, sister.
We're gonna get some pieces cut, get ready for our taste test, so we will be back in a minute. All right, we're back. We have the cake cut up. You can see it looks pretty good here. I'm kind of excited to try this, actually. So, in here, cheers.
Ready?
Ready?
Bottoms up.
Ooh.
Bit my finger. My sister bit my finger.
Who said romance isn't alive? All right, we're really going to do an actual taste test here and tell you what we think now. Okay, I have the regular one.
Okay, you're sure?
So it looks good. Like it looks nicely cooked through. You can see the raisins and the carrots. And I definitely got a bite of the walnuts.
Mhm.
Nice crunch. Maybe I could use a tiny bit more spice. It's very moist. I like it. Let's see what
This one is really moist. For gluten-free, I'm kind of surprised, especially after having your fingers all over it. It's really moist. I think this one could probably use a few more minutes in the oven
Okay.
and a little more spice, like you said. But the taste is really good. It's not dense. It's not heavy.
No.
It's
yeah.
just
I mean, it's not as gummy as I thought
mm-mm.
that it was going to be. I think I need another bite just to
Me
make
too.
sure that it's going to be okay for you guys.
I think this one right here, for someone who didn't know it was gluten-free, they probably wouldn't be able to tell if they were eating it.
I should probably try yours. It tastes way better regular.
It does, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Like-
wow.
This, you almost feel like you can taste the flour. It almost still has a raw taste to me.
Interesting.
And it may just be that flour that we use, the King Arthur. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you stuck this in front of me and it was the only option, and so I hadn't eaten this first, I would think that that was good. But if you are gluten-free, I could see making this and maybe just add more spice to sort of cover up some of that floury taste. This one, I would rate, let's say, out of 5. I'm going to give this one a 4 just because it could use maybe a little more spice. This one, I would put at a pretty solid 2.5.
A 2.5?
Yeah.
And for me, because I have to eat gluten-free,
You like it?
I like it. I would rate it higher because so
Okay.
many gluten-free desserts are either so sweet or they're dense and heavy, and this
Yeah.
isn't like that
It
at all.
definitely didn't, and I think maybe a few more minutes in the oven may correct what I'm tasting there.
Yeah.
So I would say give this one another probably 4 minutes in the oven. If you press a cake and it holds the mark of your finger, it's not done. And this one initially I stuck a toothpick in, it looked clean, but I should have tested it with my finger to see if it sprang back. It did not. So when I tested it later, it still didn't quite look done. But anyway, I would say this is definitely worth making. And if someone has an egg allergy, an issue with eggs, this is a really great choice. So I would say go ahead and try it and make the cream cheese frosting. That's really good. Although I could totally eat this without any frosting on it.
Definitely. It was a very easy recipe too.
Oh, it was
To
super
make.
easy, all in one bowl. That was the best thing. I only, we dirtied one bowl, so
Yeah.
that was nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Kim. Thank you for being here on Lynn's Test Kitchen.
It was my pleasure.
And thank you for allowing me to bite your finger
Anytime.
and feeding me cake.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe, and then send in your recipe suggestions, and maybe you'll be next on the list. So we'll see you next time.
Good job. That looks like a square.
I know my shapes. I know my shapes.